Thank you, Ambassador Kirk. We're so fortunate to have you in this role, and your energy, your passion, your pragmatic approach to these issues has benefited the U.S. economy and the global economy. We're just really, really thrilled. For you and your team, many of which I've had a chance to work with, we're fortunate to do that. We're ready to go to work. We've got two great panels, plenary sessions this morning, and so I'm going to ask Mike Ducker, who is the COO, President of Federal Express International, to come up and lead our first panel. We've got Trade Ministers Bart, Ferrari, Groser, Fast, and Gonzalez for our first great discussion. Mike Ducker.
Ladies and gentlemen, our first plenary session, entitled The New Agenda for Services Liberalization, will have Ambassador Kirk and Mr. Ducker on stage. Joining them will be Korean Trade Minister Taeho Park, Canadian Trade Minister Ed Fast, Costa Rican Minister of Foreign Trade Anabel Gonzalez, and New Zealand Trade Minister Tim Groser. And the rapporteur for this panel is Greg Skofkov of FedEx Express. Please welcome Mike Ducker to the podium.
Thank you. Good morning. Let me join the parade if I can, the Bob Fast Team parade. I just want to thank Bob for all his years of service at CSI. He's been an extraordinary leader for us. And I also want to thank him for his personal mentoring and training for myself when I had the privilege of serving as the board chair. And let me also join Sam in thanking Ambassador Kirk for his service to our country and the energy and enthusiasm, passion, and results that he brings to that role. And we thank him for the vision that he shared with us this morning. I also want to thank him for the open shot announcement, because I think that's a great way to start this. We're joined today by an outstanding group of leaders from their countries, and each of them is a strong advocate of free trade, and they all are willing, based on their attendance here today and the remarks that I think you'll hear from them, to take that open shot. So we're really fortunate to have them here. I do want to start our discussion today by focusing on what we believe is one of the more promising service trade initiatives, the International Services Agreement, or ISA. And we believe that that has the potential to stimulate growth around the globe and jobs, growth in jobs around the globe. Now, these discussions started pretty quietly in Geneva at the beginning of the year among a group of countries that were called the Really Good Friends of Services. Now, there's not a very creative name. It's not even a good acronym. But we're not going to measure it by how the name goes. We're going to measure it by what results come out of it. And a lot of it was in response to the Doha round, the fact that it was deadlocked, not going anywhere, and was not going to produce a very strong services outcome in the future. And it's been frustrating for those of us in the services community to know firsthand the opportunities that we lose when we don't have access to foreign markets. And it's clear that services, trade, and investment holds huge promise for the global economy. 70% of the world economic output, 70% of the employment occurs in the services industries. But a large part of that remains untapped due to widespread restrictions in services trade. And the first small steps toward liberalization were taken in the Uruguay round in '95. We're trying to remember what was going on in '95. Ambassador Kirk pointed out in his remarks that the world has changed significantly since then. Speed is up. Speed is a great advantage for us participating in this digital economy, and we have to draw some of these things to a conclusion with the speed that life occurs today. It's time for us to really unlock the potential of services trade, and that's why the business community strongly supports the efforts to move toward a high ambition services agreement that captures many of the 21st century trade issues that we now confront. And for the first time, I truly believe that we have good momentum on our side due to the leadership of many of the people that are on the stage today. So let me begin this morning, before we start the discussion, just to introduce our panelists. Ambassador Ron Kirk, our USTR, whom you've already heard from. Minister Ed Fast of International Trade Canada is with us. Minister Anabel Gomez, Foreign Trade Minister for Costa Rica. Minister Tim Groser, Minister of Trade for New Zealand. And Minister Taeho, Minister of Trade for the Republic of Korea. Thank you all for being here today. Now, we just heard from Ambassador Kirk on the U.S. view on the importance of services, but I'd like to give each of our other ministers a few moments to tell us how an international services agreement can create the greatest value for your country and also for the global trading system. And Minister Fast, I'd like to start with you.
Thank you, Mike. And I want to start off by saying thank you to CSI for the unflagging support of Canada's efforts to join the TPPs. You've been supportive. You understand the important role that Canada has played as a strategic partner, as an ambitious partner in those discussions. And I did also want to thank Ambassador Kirk for his wonderful analogy of taking the open shot. He also reminded me of what Wayne Gretzky, of course, a true Canadian, said about his own success. He said, when others are going to where the puck is, I'm going to where the puck will be. And certainly that's what we're trying to do in the whole area of services. I'd also like to begin by stating what should remain our overriding objective, and that is the World Trade Organization that remains the preeminent forum within which robust global rules-based trading takes place. Sadly, the stark reality is that until the underlying conditions and relationships change, until all actors reach a new level of understanding and engagement that reflects the political and economic realities of today's world, there will be no significant progress in advancing the multilateral negotiations. In the absence of a near-term conclusion to the Doha round, plurilateral agreements like the proposed International Services Agreement can lead to ambitious outcomes on market access for services within our respective economies. A services agreement has the potential to act as a testing ground for new and innovative ideas and for modernizing outdated rules, and can also act as an example to other economies as we work to resuscitate a moribund Doha round. And let me assure you, Canada remains committed to the Doha round, but in the meantime, Canada does not intend to be left waiting in the sitting room while other critical trade and investment opportunities pass us by. We have no choice but to explore all other options available to expand Canada's global trade and investment footprint, especially during this time of economic uncertainty. And to that end, our government is pursuing the most ambitious trade agenda in Canada's history. So when we talk about expanding product coverage under the WTO's Information Technology Agreement, or about concluding a plurilateral services agreement, when we talk about Canada's role in the Trans-Pacific Partnership, or about our well-advanced trade negotiations with the European Union, what we are really talking about are the logical next steps we must take together with our key trading partners.